Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you really quickly how to use something you already have inside of your Jeep to help you mount and dismount your own tires at home. Stick around, check it out. It's going to be a real quick video, but it's going to basically show you how to do this on your own for really cheap. Let's get it done. This weekend, I have a friend coming by the War Paint home garage here. She wants me to set up her new tires on her beadlocks. Well, that's kind of a labor-intensive job, so you don't often want to pay a shop to do it because they're going to overcharge you.
Oh, would you look at this?
And oftentimes they shoot them on real fast, they don't torque them down correctly, and it's not even done properly.
But he ain't fooling me.
So if you're anything like me, you're going to want to do it yourself, but more importantly, you're not going to want to throw a lot of money at something, especially if there's no guarantee that it's even done right in the first place. Obviously, we place a lot of trust in beadlocks, and we need to make sure that they're done right. So in order to speed that process along, remove the old tire off of your beadlock nice and safely. We're going to get this done with something, like I said a minute ago, that you already have in your Jeep. But let's talk about beadlocks for just a hot second. You guys know me, I am a race line guy through and through. Pretty much all beadlocks work the same way. This is the bead of your tire. Beads come in various thicknesses and they make spacers to put in between these bead rings and your wheel just to ensure that you don't bend your bead ring and deform it. That way you can use it again. This tire is just gonna lay onto the wheel, and then the way that this bead gets secured is with that bead ring. When you tighten all of these bolts, it pinches it down and squeezes it onto the wheel. Now what that allows you to do is run some pretty low air pressure and not actually roll your tire off the wheel when you're off-road. It's a huge benefit. But the inner bead, the bead on the other side of the wheel, opposite the bead ring, actually gets seated on there with air pressure, and it gets seated into a groove that's made into the wheel, and it's often the hardest part when you're trying to separate an old tire from a beadlock. People use everything from high lift jacks to engine hoists and all sorts of crazy tricks. They even drive their vehicles up on the tire to try to pop it off once it's completely deflated. None of that stuff always works the first time. It's often dangerous and it's time consuming. I'm gonna make something today that's very, very safe. It's gonna save you a bunch of time, and you don't really even have to spend any money because you often have these things laying around your garage. So let's get to it. This is a scissor jack. Now, these are pretty useless when you have an off-road vehicle because they're super tall, they're super weak, they're not the best design, they're often pretty time consuming, but they do compact into a small package and they come in most vehicles. The back of your Jeep probably has one in it that you're never ever gonna use. Let's cut that thing up and make it into a bead breaker. The other thing that we're gonna use is an old trailer hitch. I'm gonna use this guy. It's adjustable, so it's gonna allow me to adjust the height depending upon the vehicle I decide to plug this into. And with this trailer hitch and that jack, we're gonna make our bead breaker. Obviously, this is gonna take a little work. So the first step is gonna be to use an angle grinder with an abrasive cutoff wheel and remove the tabs off the end of the jack that were originally used to actually extend it. Then just move right on and cut that little swivel piece off the top side of the jack. It's the part that would normally sit against the vehicle if you were trying to lift it. Now we're going to trade out that cutoff wheel for a flap disc and basically prep that top piece that we just cut off as well as the base of the jack so that we can be ready to weld it. Using the same flap disc, we're going to prep the trailer hitch. Now you're going to take a fairly large nut, put it on the end where we ground those tabs off at the beginning of the video. That's going to allow you to actually operate this jack with an impact gun and make quick work of it rather than slowly cranking it with those original tabs that were on there. Then weld the base of the jack, the part that would normally be on the ground, to the bottom of the trailer hitch. Make sure that you spend a little bit more time with your welder on the thicker steel here and kind of whip the puddle up onto the jack. Oftentimes these jacks are made out of pretty thin steel. You're going to be welding it to some pretty thick material. Now with some 1-inch 3/16 flat bar you can get from a local home improvement store, you're going to want to maybe put it over the radius of your tire and bend it. I also put it on the floor with my foot to ensure that I could bend it to the diameter of a 17-inch wheel. Then I cut a small section of it out around the bend so that it fit the wheel properly. We're going to use that with this jack to help break our bead. Just be sure to grind the edges down and make them all nice and smooth and round so you don't damage your tire. Now with a piece of tubing, maybe a couple inches long, welded to the jack, take your piece of curved flat bar, weld it to your piece of tubing, and you're basically ready to test it out. And now we have the test. Simply lay the tire down. Again, we're using this on the inner bead. Position it in place, and then use an impact gun on that big nut. I used a 7/8 to basically extend the jack and use the weight of a truck to actually push on that inner bead and break the seal.
Guys, that's pretty much all there is to it, right? I mean, I showed it real quick. I'm not teaching you how to weld. You got to know how to do that. You got to know how to cut steel. You got to know how to prep it. But essentially, we have the trailer hitch, right? Now this slides into the piece that then would slide into the truck. That's some pretty crazy thunder. I don't know if that came through on video, but that was crazy. And we have our nut on the end so I can hook my impact up to it. And we'll come down and this curved piece of steel right here will essentially press on the bead. But anyway, guys, that's all there is to it. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's a bunch of this kind of stuff out there, little tips and tricks, don't cost you a ton of money, scraps around the garage, tools you already have to make your life easier. Anyway, guys, make sure you subscribe, share this video with your friends. Get out there and build something.